Before we begin animating, there are some housekeeping chores that I think we need to take care of here. The first thing I'll do is go straight over to the animation screen layout. I'm just going to click here and go to animation. And this will give me just kind of a nice screen layout with the dope sheet, the graph editor. Of course, you've got the timeline down here. With Blender, as you know, you can configure things any way you want, but I think this is a nice screen layout to begin with as we animate. I've got this relationship line right here. I don't think I want that. I'm going to press the N key, and let me scroll down to the display area, which is here, and we can turn off relationship lines right here. So that cleans that up a bit. Now I'm going to begin with an idle cycle, just the cycle of animation that runs when the game character is doing nothing at all, really. And I'll probably do that between frames 1 and 40. I'm going to begin with that and just see how that works. However, what I want to do is I want to key the default pose here on 0. So I've got it on frame 1 here, and I'm going to scroll back to frame 0, and I'll select one of these controls and hit the A key to select everything. And now if I hit the I key on the keyboard, I get the Insert Keyframe menu. And I can choose to insert keyframes for just location, just rotation, or all of them combined here. And I'm just going to do that. I'm going to key the location, rotation, and scale for everything here at frame 0. Just so I have it. I'm going to open this up just a bit so we can see. So now if I scroll down here, you can see I've got a keyframe for every single thing on that rig. It's just something I like to do. It isn't absolutely mandatory, but I like to be able to have that default pose available to me if I want to come back and copy that, because I'll be moving these animation cycles around on the timeline. Alright, so I'll go back to frame 1 here. There we go. And now that I've keyframed everything, I can turn on auto keyframe here. And what that will do is now every time I move anything, it will automatically create a keyframe for me on that frame. For it to work, you need to keyframe something first. Now, some of these controls I'm really not going to need. Like I've already rotated and placed the fingers around the objects. So I'm not going to be using these controls anymore. So I'd like to kind of hide them away. I think they're kind of distracting. If I'm going to select this control through the shield, I've got all this here and I don't want that. So if I select one of these controls now, let me open this up a bit, go to my armature panel. You can see that with this control selected, this layer is highlighted. So if I shift click this, that turns that layer off and hides those objects. Let me do the same thing with the finger controls here. If I select that one, you can see there it is. And if I shift click that, that hides that away as well. All right, so now if I come over here and take a look at it through the shield, my hand controls don't clutter up the viewport. All right, everything else I think I will probably need. Now I said I'd begin with frames 1 through 40, so let's go ahead and type in 40 here to the end. And now we can middle mouse button click and drag and frame this up. I can scroll the mouse wheel and zoom in a bit, so now I can just see frames 1 to 40. Now, this may change. I'm not sure if this is exactly what I'll be using, but that's okay. Look how I can select the character, and I don't want to do that. I want to only be able to select the control objects for the rig. So I'm going to select the character. I'll hover over the outliner and press the period key on the numpad, and that zooms in to my selected object. And now I want to turn off the selectability here of my character. And I want to do the same thing for the eyes, for the hammer, and the shield. So that when I select things over here, I don't accidentally select the object or the character. I only select the control rig. All right, I think that's going to help. So, the idle. I'm going to select this control object, and let's move it down just a little bit so he kind of takes the weight like this. I kind of want to have the hand controls come down as well, so I'll shift select those and bring those down just a bit like that. There we go. I want to make sure his center of gravity is over his feet. So I'll go to my side view here and just make sure that it's right over those feet. I don't want him leaning forward too much. His hands don't need to be that far out, and his feet could be a little bit more out toward the shoulders a bit, I think. And I'll move these knees out a hair like that. And I'll bring these in some and rotate them a bit. And I'm just hitting G and moving them around a bit. And now I need to counter key that hand, as you recall. So I'll just bring that out like that. Maybe I'll move that head forward a little bit. I'm going to middle mouse button click and drag over here. And I can see that my transformation orientation is in global. I'm going to change that to local and switch to rotation here. Something like this. So he's a little bit more angry maybe. And maybe I'll move the elbows out just a hair. See how that works. And maybe I'll also make his feet not quite as in line with each other. Maybe move one back a little bit and move one forward just a hair. And I could also even rotate these so they're out just a little bit like that. Something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and key everything here at this keyframe. So I'll select one and hit the A key to select everything. And once again, I'm going to hit I and key the location, rotation, and scale. I'm not going to do that every time, but I'm going to go ahead and do that at the first frame here. All right, so now he's going to need to stand there and breathe a little bit, and I'm not sure exactly how long that's going to be. I'm going to begin with 12 frames. Now, we're working with 24 frames a second here. I think it's easier to calculate the fractions of a second in 24 frames a second. But so for this frame, let's kind of have that chest control kind of rotate back as if he's breathing a bit. Let's see what happens if I just rotate this back a bit. He kind of breathes a little bit like that. So now if I go back, you can see he's kind of breathing like that. And maybe let's take that chest keyframe, which is right here in the dope sheet, and we can duplicate this and move it forward to, say, frame 24. Let's try that. I'm going to press Shift D and move the mouse, and I'm going to move this up to around frame 24, like that. Now let's hit play and see what happens. Seems like a little bit too quick. I'm just trying to find the timing here. So if I select that keyframe on the dope sheet for the chest and also shift select this one and hit the G key and move these forward a bit, maybe I'll go to 20 and 40. Let's go ahead and try that. There we go. Back to the beginning and hit play. Yeah, that feels a little better to me. And I'm also watching over here. I've got this particular screen set up behind him as if we're seeing him in the game. All right, let's try that. I could even go a little bit further, couldn't I? Let me try that. I'm going to go to frame 60 for the range of my animation here. And so now let me zoom out a bit here. So now let's take these. I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to move it forward to about 30. and this one forward to about 60. And let's see what happens here, just the timing of it. I don't know, that feels a little better to me. What do you think? Let's give it a try. In the next video, we'll continue with the idle animation, and we'll talk more about the graph editor and tangents.